And it's good morning. This is Gate Talk with B. I'm B, of course. I hope you guys are out there doing good this Wednesday morning. It is now May 6th. Already, we're almost through with our first week of the new month. And I hope you guys are out there staying encouraged. Thank you for the ones that's continued to reach out. You know, that really means a lot to me because, like I say, we're all here. I'm where you guys are. And, you know, I'm glad that we are relatable. You know, I'm glad that we can turn this podcast into something that we all need. I'm going to just jump off where we left off. We left at to relationships part 2 yesterday, and that was more so summing up the relationships with your significant others, relationship with potential partners, relationships with, you know, anyone that you want to manifest with, or do you need to let that situation go? Is that an energy snatcher? So we kind of left off on there. So we're going to pick up and now see how that relationship with your significant other or potential person you're dating leads over into your children. You know, this person has to be someone that you are aligned with your values and cores that you now teach your children, because you don't want to have your routine going and you're teaching your children these certain values and cores and, you know, self-awareness of themselves. And then you allow someone to come and alter all that for yourself. And now that reflects on your children. You know, that's big. We have a lot of, you know, families that are, you know, migrating together. You know, whether it's because of marriage or dating or, you know, I'm dating you, so your daughter comes on the weekend, or you're dating me and, you know, my son or my daughter, you know, is now connected with you. So that energy of force with now migrating two families has to be something that you guys, you know, work on together before you migrate with your children. Because if your core values are different from, you know, his or hers, then that's going to be a problem. You know, that's going to be a problem with not only you guys, but with your children. And the least thing you want to do is have a relationship with someone and that person doesn't have that same relationship with your children, or your children don't have that relationship with that person. You know, that's where the lines become gray and get blurred, because we all want to make sure that we're doing what we're doing to put our children first. You know, we're all want to make sure that our goals and our values that we teach them are being aligned with who we are and what we attach ourselves with, you know. So that's big, you know, that relationship with our significant other, it pours into our children, because now this is kind of like the stage play for happiness for your kids. Your kids are sitting back watching this, you know, they're sitting back saying, you know, I see mommy, and if it's not daddy, but it's mommy and someone else, or dad and not mommy and dad and someone else, they want to make sure that it's reciprocated the same way, you know, in their imagination. Remember, we go back into that childhood, you know, with myself, when I didn't have that role or have that, you know, display in front of me, you know, growing up. So I had to go into my imagination. So what we're doing is now making sure that whatever our children is seeing at the level they're on is happiness, we're displaying it. And if we're not on that level where they have that, you know, imagination of knowing what happiness is, we're going to create it for them. We're going to let them know that this is what it is. This is a male role and this is a female role. You know, no one has more dominance over the other, you know, but a male is the leader. You know, this is somebody that we have to follow. You know, we have to get in line with the way God wanted us to align. And as we align, the male is dominant, you know, or if you're into a, you know, woman to woman that is dominant more, or male and male, the male that's more dominant, that person is the one that we all have to show leader, you know, kind of allow to lead us. So if you want to appoint that person in your life, then you got to make sure that person is aligned. So that's why I say we wrapped up relationships part 2. Hopefully you guys are, you know, mastered that step and that skill of how to select a spouse. You know, how to get aligned with yourself. You know, if you guys follow these podcasts, then you'll understand what level we are on today. You know, we started last week with getting to know ourselves, and, you know, started off the later in the week on relationships. Now that relationships for ourselves carries on to the relationship with someone else. Now here we are Wednesday, and you guys are still following on. We're now channeling to that relationship on to your children that you choose for your spouse. So we jump right back into that. You know, I just have to sum that up for anyone that's just now starting to listen to Gate Talk with B. That's where we're at right now, you know. So now back to the, that relationship with your kids and that spouse. We want to make sure that that person it's in the role of leadership. This person just can't be someone that you say, hey, I like him. His conversation is good. I'm going to allow you to come into my life and to my children's life. And now you're going to be the leader. No, it doesn't work that way. This person has to show you values and skills into your relationship between just you two before you can migrate that over to your children. So this person putting God first? Is he putting himself first? Is he allowing it, the relationship between him and his children, or her and her children? How's that relationship? How's the relationship with his parents or her parents? Her siblings, all that play a counter, because what you don't want to get is someone who doesn't have those relationships under control themselves, because now what you're doing is you're entering that phase with them. So the disturbance that they have over their relationship is not going to be the disturbance you have over yours. So it's kind of like that give or take kind of thing. You want to put in what you can get out. So you never want to put in your energy into something that you can't get the same energy out. So you want to make sure this person is aligned with themselves also, and they show leadership skills. Because the least thing, like I say, you don't want that relationship to go sour when it becomes your children, because you'll be placed into a predicament where at the time, potentially, you'll be faced with, do I put my relationship on my children? And not saying that that's ever going to be a point, because that should never be in anyone's life where you have to choose between your children and your spouse. Because of course, if that is not that child's father or mother, then you already know the choice. So don't ever think that I'm speaking on, a situation where you're going to be in the predicament of choosing between, your children or your spouse. That's completely different. But we do have some people out there that are still into, a situation with their significant other, and that is a child's father or mother. So we still have to speak on that. So in those situations, you don't want to be put into that, because of course now that puts you as a woman back against the wall. So now you're hearing it from your children and you're hearing it from your spouse, and that becomes that stress and that anxiety on your life. So that's why I say it starts with you only, and then that energy trickles into your relationships. So back into that, make sure this person is someone that has leadership skills. That person that can meet your children where they are. Same way that the parents are reaching. So if we have now the parents reaching our children from our last conversation last week on Are You Reachable? Now we got to make sure that that spouse or that potential dating partner is now reaching your children as well. Because you can have a great bond and you can be great. But when it comes down to your kid, that person doesn't know how to handle. Maybe they don't have children, or maybe their children are in the same, state or, around them all the time. So you want to know how that they are handling the situation with their children before you introduce them to your children, because you want to make sure that unity is, is flawless. You want to make sure that unity of your children and yourself into this relationship is effortlessly, that's the law of least effort. I'm reading on that, it's just a law basically saying that if you do nothing, it's still going to be an accomplishment, and that's what I'm learning. Sometimes things are just going to happen because it's supposed to happen, not because you have to do anything to make it happen. So that's why I said we align ourselves sometimes in these situations when we're ready to introduce our spouse to our children. It's supposed to be that least effort. It's supposed to be something where it just naturally comes. No one's trying too hard. No one's putting on an image. No one's trying to, win anybody over. This is just natural, because natural is going to win before flaw any day, because eventually if you're not showing your true character to those children, they're going to be the first ones to call it out, whether mom or dad is enjoying that person or not. If that children don't feel like they're being satisfied as well into this relationship, then they're going to call it out. So it's going to either put you at a make it or break it point, so you want to make sure that that person is able to be genuine and sure of themselves, so they can be genuine and sure of your children, so like I say, you can go back to that stage play. They're seeing the male and the female role in action. They're seeing mom doing this role and, potential stepfather or stepmom or, mom or dad, dad or mom doing that, so that's big. We want to make sure that we aligning that up, because the kids have the say so. Kids are the generation, kids are the future. We're living now, but they're due to live. And we want to make sure that we're aligning our children up with success. We want to make sure that we're aligning them up with the ability to have happiness, so they don't hit their heads and bump, into love situations that we have talked about. You know, a lot of our pain comes from situations that we allowed ourselves to get into. So we don't want our children to get into that. We want them to set them up now for the success of love, for the success, period, you know. So that's big, you know, we want to make sure that, and this one's a brief topic because it doesn't take much, because at this point you're a parent, you're reachable to your children, you're reachable in yourself, you know your spouse. So that introduction to your children of that relationship based off, you know, who you are should be effortlessly. You know, this should be something that should come, like I say, without doing anything but being you, because you're going to shine through that. And your children are going to sit back and watch that. You know, they're going to sit back and now tap into that energy without them knowing, you know, whether they're sitting at the dinner table with you, or they see you guys in passing in the hallway, or they see you getting dressed up to go on a date, or they see, you know, your significant other bringing flowers, or they see you cooking dinner for your significant other. Those things are being reciprocated for your children. You know, though they're taking that in. So that's why I say, make sure that you're aligning yourself up with happiness so you can display happiness, so your children can receive happiness. Because what we have to understand, if you are not with your significant other, if you're with your significant other and your children aren't there biologically theirs, they're not obligated at all to have that relationship vice versa. Your spouse isn't obligated to have that relationship with your children because they do have a mother or father. But the ideal for a union is to have an obligation. So you want to make sure that person knows that, you know, this is not an option for you. This is not a choice. You're coming into my life and this is what you're going to, you know, this is what we do. This is our values. This is our cores. You're coming into our world. In the same way with them, you want to make sure that you're going into their values because, you know, discipline. I may, you know, discipline my children a certain way, then you discipline your children. And that can become a topic, an argument for you guys. You know, you let your child do this, or I won't put up with that for my child. And you don't never want to do that my child, your child thing into a unionship. That's where a lot of people go wrong, because if you're in a union, that's not my child or your child. That's our children, whether you're the biological father or mother or not. So if anyone's coming into a situation and already starting the your kind of, talk, end it quick. Let it be known, hey, listen, they're yours and they're mine. They're not our, they're come on now. We're adults now. We're not teenagers. We know they have biological parents, but we also know that when they see you more than their biological parent, you play a bigger factor because they're waking up to you and they're going to sleep with you, and father or mother is outside of the home. So this is your responsibility. So you want to make sure that, you want to make sure that finance wise, this person is able to accommodate the finances that you and your children come with. With me, I have 4 kids. So if you come into the situation with me and you have children yourself, now we're unionizing potentially over 6 kids and 2 adults. So now is that person able to finance you and your family? Are you able to finance that person because you take care of 4? Are you able to take on, more children to, finance as well? As that person. And that's why I say this is all wrapping up into a leadership role. This person has to display all those things so that this is aligned for you and your children. You can't take back your children, but you can take back a relationship that's potentially harmed and that a person is not ready for. So like I say, you want to make sure that person has leadership skills. That person has the ability to now say it's ours and not yours or mine. You want to make sure this person is financially ready to support a family, because your children are going to see that burden. Hey, mom was doing it on her own. She was, we were great. But when this person came, I'm not longer getting the things that I need. I'm no longer getting the things I want because now we have a financial strain. So before you introduce this person to your children, make sure that this person can withstand all of those platforms in your children's life and in yours as well. This is just, like I say, an encouragement to make sure that you guys are staying aligned with your relationships, staying in line with yourself. Stay encouraged. You guys are walking in your purpose. You're doing fine. You're doing great. Stay on it. We're all growing, as we can already see that since last week. Look how many skills and, different mindset we have encountered. This has only been a week now that I've been talking and you guys been listening in. So it's working, so stay at it. Don't stop, continue to listen in. Like I say, even if it's not when I record it. It can be the next day. It can be the next week. It can be tonight. But just get the message, apply the message, believe in the message. Believe that you can apply and do the message yourself. This is not just for myself. This is for all of us. So we're going to get this, and I want you guys to stay encouraged. Like I say, it's Wednesday. We're almost through. Those Sunday talks are really the subject changers. So right now we're still in relationships, and we're going to make sure that each relationship's aligned with our purpose